Welcome to another edition of Don Allphin on Fishing. Today I'm in my garage, and I promised for the last month or so that I'd show you my new boat. And so I'm going to do a quick video on my boat. It's a Lund Fisherman 1875. They've only been out for a couple, 3 years from Lund. But we're going to take a once over, and I'm going to show you just exactly how I've got this boat rigged. It's actually, in my opinion, rigged extremely well. And so stay tuned, and hopefully I'll be able to show you enough of the boat to give you some ideas for your own boat, if you like what I'm doing. Thanks for watching. Okay, just looking from the back of the boat, obviously you've got your drain plug. You've got I've got a Helix 9 Humminbird fish finder. Was on the boat when I bought it. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I've got a 150 Pro XS 4-stroke Mercury motor. It runs great. You know, stepping down from a 250 Pro XS for my bass boat, it's a little bit rough to handle, but I'm getting there. So there it is. There's a ladder there that extends down. You don't need the ladder, as I'll show you later when I get into the boat, but you don't need the ladder to get into the boat unless it's on the water. So the little kicker motor that they've got is a Mercury 9.9 standard. It's connected, obviously, with the steering wheel up front, so both motors work in tandem. You know, which is fine. I am going to make one more adjustment. I'm going to take this link off here, and I'm going to put on either a Garmin or or one of the other steering and throttle mechanisms that are available with to be able to use with a remote control. I'll be doing that. I just hadn't decided to do that now. So let's go ahead and get in the boat, and I'll show you some things, and I'll get back out of the boat. Actually, let me just, before I do that, let me just go ahead and walk around to the front of the boat and show you just externally some cool things. Okay, so looking at the front of the boat, obviously I've got an Ulterra Minn Kota. The thing that I want you to be really aware of is notice how long the shaft is. It's a 72-inch shaft, and it's a 36-volt motor. Extremely important if you buy one of these kind of boats. That's not how they were rigged. It's not how they're rigged from the place that most of the people buy these boats, at least in Utah, and that's Rogers Marine. I feel badly to say this, but they just simply do not know, in my opinion, what happens at Flaming Gorge with this kind of boat. And so there's a stark difference between having a trolling motor that will do part of the job and a trolling motor that will get the job done. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get inside the boat. Also, I want you to look here. This is a fantastic device for me as I'm getting older to be able to launch the boat. And I got this from boat2trailer.com, and the boat the 2 is a 2, just like it is with River 2C on my glide baits. But this hooks right on there, and I lift this knob up just before I launch. The boat will launch fine, and then it's ready for when I come back into the dock, back the trailer in. All I have to do is get the boat on the trailer, come up and hit this with the bow, and when that hits, you hear a metallic click, and you're hooked up. You can pull the boat out and deal with it. So what a great thing for me, because I don't have to crawl out of the boat, have a ladder here or something like that to be able to get down and make sure that I hook on the the winch. So that was a great thing here. Just show you this real quick. I've got a ram mount here. It's not completely put on quite now. I just wanted to show you this. This hooks to a transducer, a second transducer for my Garmin Live Scope. So I can shift gears and put my transducer up here, which is going to help me because I can actually have the motor down and be able to see exactly where I am, and when I'm jigging, it's going to be really great. I have a separate transducer that has that'll just sit right here. I'm using my ice bundle Garmin as my second Garmin Live Scope in the boat. I just set it right here when I'm fishing, and then I have the Lowrance, and I'll talk about a little bit more when I get inside the boat, the Lowrance HDS Live unit. And I've actually put on its transducer, mounted it right here, a 3-in-1 transducer. Now that's the trick. How do you get a Lowrance mounted on a Minn Kota? But I've got a system that I'll be explaining to you a little bit about, and it works fantastic. It's been a wonderful, wonderful addition to the boat. So I'm going to go ahead and get in the boat now, and we'll go from there. Okay, going from back to front. Back here in the back, obviously, we've got a little platform there. If you're using the ladder to get in, you've got some compartments down there that those round lids come off, so you can get into the guts down there. That part I really like about the Lund. This is a live well. I've never taken that off. We don't have live minnows that we use, so I could probably just take that off, but for right now, it just sits there. There are 2 live well compartments separated here, so if a person were in a tournament, they could have separate live wells, and that works out really well. Obviously, these are some rod storage. I use them for storing maggots right now because I usually don't put my rods here. This is a really exciting thing, quite frankly, about the Lund. But they have 2 seats back here, one on the left side, or the starboard side rather, and on the port side, and as long as you're not worrying about having a rod holder right there, you can sit right there, and it makes it so much more convenient. We have 4 seats here. Obviously, the captain's seat, the passenger seat, and then 2 more seats. But there's a lot of clutter with those seats if you don't need them. So if you're only fishing 4 people on the boat, for example, I suggest that you use these because they can fold up, and you have a tow hold right there, so you're not going to fall out of the boat if you get really silly. So, but I think those are great. They're very sturdy, very well built. I really like that. Now here on the side, you have a couple of compartments. I'll just show you. I've got a lot of stuff packed in there. Some cleaning stuff that I use, and my downrigger balls and that kind of stuff are in that side compartment. And then if you swing over here to this side, same kind of thing, but I've got some longer rods, 2 longer rods that I usually use when I'm using the lake trolls, and they're long enough that if you lift them up a little bit, they go all the way up the side, so you can put I think an 8-footer or more in that boat. Now here is the pride, I think, of what I've done with this Lund. Lund has a problem here. This gunnel is 9 1/4 inches wide, and in all candor, Canon, nobody makes a mount a sturdy. I mean, they make mounts, but they're not sturdy. They only come to about 3/4 of the way across, and it's just not to me, it's just not a sturdy way to have your downriggers mounted. So I got with AJ Olson of a Reed Machine Company there in McKinnon, and I bought a Brocraft, just a standard mount that goes onto a 90-degree angle, because this is the track, the channel that we have is a 90-degree channel on the Lund Fisherman, and I gave him this. We took some measurements. There's an outside channel that just runs along, and we went ahead and tapped into that outside channel with aluminum and came across. These babies are so solid, they will not move. And other people with Fisherman have made the mistake, in my opinion, of drilling holes in the gunnel, and that's one of the things Lund says, please do not do. But then again, I didn't want to have my transducer, or not my transducer, my downrigger jumping up and down on my boat as I'm going. So if any of you would like to see if you could figure out how to use one of these They're custom built, but they're not that expensive. AJ's a fantastic designer and worker, and he just did a great job. So I've got 4 downriggers. These are 2 Canon 10s, but I have 2 Canon 5s, and if I need to have 4 on, I'll put one here, and I'll put one over there, and have 4 downriggers on the boat. However, this boat is just short enough that if you have 2 downriggers on each side, there's not a lot of space back there. So you can do it, and I'm going to do it. I have done it, but when I'm just going out fishing my glide baits or fishing a lake troll or 2, I don't have those extra downriggers on. However, it takes less than 5 minutes to put these the mounts on for those downriggers and get them mounted. Here's another. Well, of course, I've got some extended rod holders here. All fit into the channel. They're great. They're just I'm not sure if they're Scotty mounts, but these are just obviously I just picked them up at Amazon. Now this is my Live Scope main transducer. This is my Garmin Live Scope. Have it mounted here. Here's my black box. And this is sweet because what it does is it travels like this. I have a nice little holder that Justin von Everstein made me on his 3D printer here in Manila. And I've got a cover for my transducer. That's kind of cool. That if you're spending $1,500 for a transducer, it's kind of nice to have a cover that you can take on or take off, put on or take off. And so I do that, and then this folds down. This is how I can move the transducer from side to side. So I'm excited about that. Now trust me, it's not like my bass boat where I had a turret that was automatic. All I had to do is push a button and it was out to the side of my Ultrex, Minn Kota Ulterra motor that did not self-deploy. And so that was easier for me because I had my transducer right there. I had a foot pedal, just push it and change position, and it was always in the water when my trolling motor was in the water. So this is a completely foreign kind of thing for me, but this is a really great deal. I got it from Brew City, and they've been out of stock for a few months, but I just looked online the other day, and I think Shields or Cabela's had a couple of them in stock, and so that's a great way to get your transducer on your Live Scope situated in the water, and it's right here in the middle of the boat. Use your remote to control your trolling motor. You can be right here. You can watch it. I've got 3 different finders that I can look at. This is a Humminbird Helix 9. I can honestly tell you out of the box, this is the single worst transducer fish finder that I've ever used, and I've used them all. And I've got a Humminbird on my bass boat that I'm going to sell, and I love that one. This one, for some reason, has some problems, and I think I'm just going to have to go into its menu and try to figure out why it is not showing the fish. Even in a 2D format that Lowrance HDS live unit shows up there that's mounted underneath the motor. I showed you the transducer back there for the Humminbird, and it's mega imaging. You've got down scope, you've got side scope. All of those function here, but when I'm just trying to say locate my jig as I'm dropping my jig with my Garmin, I can see them on the Garmin. Sometimes if it gets a little if there's too many fish in the water and I can't see my lure going down, I can look up on my Lowrance and I can see my jig going down to the bottom. I cannot see my jig, even with the sensitivity at 100% on that Humminbird. Not a fan right now of that one. Let's see. This is dragging on a little bit, but a beautiful cubby there for your, for all your paperwork, and you can store not batteries, but other kinds of flashlights or whatever you want in there. And let's go back here. We've got in the floor, you've got a really nice rod compartment that I've used up on a lot of my glide baiting and a lot of my when I throw the Mike Saw slammers, and when I jig for with the smaller rods for lake trout and for kokanee. That's a nice little spot. Got another one right here, and it's not that I'm short of rods. And if you look around my garage, I've got another 25 rods out because they were all in my bass boat, and I've got to figure out what to do with them. But very, very good rod storage. The only complaint I had is that sometimes these normal rods that we're using now are over 7 feet, 7'3", 7'6". They won't fit in these compartments. I haven't been able to fit the 7.3s in these compartments. Coming up front, you got two side compartments here. Ropes. I have some extra clothes. I have my my charger for my system that I'm going to talk to you about with my motor, with my trolling motor. And then the other one is the same. I've got extra life jackets and my throw cushion and fire extinguisher there. So so I was talking about rigging this boat right. A good friend of mine got a Fisherman 1875, the same time as the guy that I bought from. He passed away, Sid Cooey from Ogden passed away, and we bought his boat. When at Rogers Marine, they set him up with a 60-inch shaft, and they only did an 80-pound thrust on the motor, and quite frankly, with the Fisherman, with a very deep hole that it has, you get out there and you're trying to stay on spot lock, and if you get a 15-mile-an-hour wind, you cannot do it with that boat. I watched this fellow last October as we were doing some jigging for lake trout, and he was trying to stay with me and couldn't. I was still in my bass boat. I didn't have this on the water yet, but my bass boat would stay and have spot lock in 25, 30-mile-an-hour winds. But his Fisherman did not have that. So as I looked at the Fisherman and I bought it, and it had this 80-pound thrust and 60-inch shaft, I went ahead and called Lund, and they weren't any real help to me. So I got online and watched their promotional videos on the Fisherman, and amazingly, every single one of the videos showed a 72-inch shaft for their self-deploy Minn Kota Ulterra, and not only that, they mostly had 36-volt systems, which these came from Rogers Marine with 24-volt. I'm not saying that that's bad. It's just that it's not as good as 36 volts. I've learned that in my bass fishing days, where I had 36-volt systems. Doesn't pull nearly as many amps as a 24 or a 12-volt system. And so what I did is I just decided, okay, I'm gonna close off the 24 volts that came with this boat. So I just taped those off, and then I bought two 36-volt lithium batteries made by Amped Outdoors. I think it's the finest battery. They're the finest batteries out there. Matt at Amped Outdoors really did me a great job. I put a circuit breaker in there, brand new wiring that would take 36 volt. I think it's 8 gauge or 6 gauge. But the point is, I made an isolated circuit from here up through there to the front, and then to that plug, and that's the extent of my 36-volt system. And I've got a charger that sits in that front compartment that I showed you on the left up there on the port side, and that has a plug that comes out, and I plug those two. Both of those batteries are charged by that one charger, and then I've got another right out here. I've got another cord coming out, so I put a three-way right here, and then plug my land cable onto this, and that's how I completely charge my boat. Now, if you come over here and look, I've got if you open that up, I've got one deep cycle battery that's now dedicated to my Garmin. As soon as that battery goes bad, I'll replace it with a lithium battery, but this is a lead core. And then I've got the standard Minn Kota charging system, and I just have to check with them because I don't know this. I buy NOCO products, and NOCO have smart. They're a very, very quote smart charging unit that will charge both lithium and lead acid batteries. And I do not know that the Minn Kota will do that. But if it doesn't, then when I switch to lithium, I'll switch this out and get a NOCO. And the only problem is I'll have to either rewire or have to use the wires here and splice them together, which I really don't like to do. But guys, let me go up and show you a couple of more things. Okay, so I wanted to use this finder, and there's no way that you can use unless you use the universal, which is one of these. I've got a universal transducer that'll do 2D transmission right here, but I've never found them to be as I don't know. They're universal, so they'll work with any brand, but I've never seen them work really, really well. So I wanted my 3-in-1 Lowrance transducer for my HDS live unit. So I transferred that from my old bass boat to here. And then I got thinking, oh man, what do I do? Because normally on my Ultrex, it's not a self-deploy, so I could take my transducer wire and wrap it up just like this, all the way up to the front, and then come down back to my battery. That's not available here. So I got a little bit smart and got online and found a guy that built one of these himself. So I went down and bought a 6-foot bicycle cable, changed out one of the screws for just a standard eye bolt, eye screw actually, and a couple of carabiners, and so all of this is just external sitting there. It's all wraps up, and so when I deploy this, I'll deploy it. It goes right down. I have absolute wonderful coverage. Everything's beautiful on the transducer. When I go ahead and stow the motor again, it brings it back up, puts it back down just like that. Everything's perfect. Everything's great. And now I have a morphed situation where I have a great Lowrance 3-in-1 transducer at the bottom of that trolling motor that goes to my Lowrance here, which has been a game changer for me, because in combination, the Lowrance and the Garmin, whether it's the ice bundle that I can put here and fish from here, or the one I've got mounted in the boat, which is back there, I can see everything I need to see that's underneath the trolling motor, and then I translate that to the real time there on the Garmin, and it's just a wonderful thing. Now, obviously, they've got a foot pedal, and I have that foot pedal up there. I just pull it out when I'm up here using it, and so I believe that I know this, my jigging is going to be just as successful with the new Lund here as it was for my bass boat. So I'm excited. I've already tried it out. It works really, really well. So guys, I'm sure that I'm not mentioning everything, even though this is a long video. If you guys have any questions whatsoever about owning one of these boats, and once again, I don't want to denigrate anybody in this business. I applaud the Rogers Marine for all they do, and I think they're great guys, and they're good people. But I do believe that even they can learn a little bit about how to rig these boats specifically for Flaming Gorge. And if you bought one of those and you need to redo it, if you need to make it better, please give me a call. I'm not in this to make any money. That way, I would just be glad to consult with you and help you find solutions to any of the problems that you might face. Hey, thanks for watching. This boat is growing on me. Believe you me, I have withdrawal symptoms from my bass boat. But I know long term that I'm going to be able to fish more people out of this boat. My family will be more happy that I don't have that I can only take 2 or 3 people fishing at a time. They'd like to get several of the grandkids and several of the family members in the boat to go fishing at the same time, and I really couldn't do that with my bass boat. So I'm excited to have the Lund Fisherman. Thanks for watching. Please comment, give me any questions or any concerns that you might have, and I'll be able to, and suggestions for other videos. I'm going to go make a little video on the bass boat that I'm selling, because I just barely listed that on KSL.com. So I'm going to try to make as soon as this weather cooperates, I'll go do a small video about that boat that's for sale. So thanks again for watching, and have a great day.